and welcome back to the Smash Archive, the series where we look at every series in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. As of right now, all the series we've looked at are all first-party series, either owned or partially owned by Nintendo. So how about we look at some third-party series, namely the ones from arguably the most recognizable third-party company in Smash, and Nintendo's ex-rival, SEGA. For this video, we'll be looking at the 4 series in Smash Bros. Owned by SEGA, starting with the 3 main franchises, Sonic the Hedgehog, Bayonetta, and Persona, and then ending with a smaller universe with Virtua Fighter. Also, before this video starts, I just want to preemptively give a spoiler warning for Bayonetta's 1 and 2, as well as Persona's 3 and 5. I feel like these warnings are warranted due to the Bayonetta series being very cutscene heavy, even if they aren't known for their stories, and the Persona games, given their JRPG nature, are very story-heavy games. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I recommend using the timestamps in the description in order to skip these sections. With that out of the way, let's get started with SEGA's main and most recognizable franchise, Sonic the Hedgehog. The original Sonic the Hedgehog, much like the original Super Mario Bros., is one of those games that's so iconic that there is very little left to say that hasn't been said already. But for a brief summary for anyone unfamiliar, SEGA wanted to create a mascot that could not only help them sell their new 16-bit console, the Sega Genesis, or Sega Mega Drive outside America, but could also prove popular enough to compete with Nintendo's Super Mario, who at the time was dominating the game industry with the first 3 Super Mario Bros. Games. A contest was held within SEGA to design a mascot, with the winner ultimately being a blue hedgehog designed by Naoto Oshima, with later characteristics being decided by the game's lead programmer, Yuji Naka. The game's design was focused on speed and momentum, hence the hedgehog, originally named Mr. Hedgehog, sometimes mistranslated as Mr. Needlemouse, was named Sonic. The game went on to be a smash hit, with the game managing to sell 2 million copies worldwide by the end of 1991, and is often credited for the early success of the Genesis in America, and kickstarting the console war between the Genesis and Super Nintendo. Given this was the start of Sonic, and easily his most recognizable game, there's a good amount to cover. First is fighter number 38, Sonic, the series' main protagonist, with the main things that held him stand out compared to the competition of other game mascots at the time being his speed and more edgy and cool attitude, which was mostly pushed in the Western advertising for the game. In Smash, Sonic's appearance is based on a redesign he was given for Sonic Adventure, nowadays dubbed Modern Sonic, specifically most resembling his appearances in Sonic Lost World and Sonic Forces. Next is the stage Green Hill Zone, the game's first level and the most iconic level in the Sonic series. The stage features an embankment similar to the one Sonic can roll through to gain extra height. By attacking the embankment, or after enough time passes, the floor can crumble in a similar manner to the breakable platforms present within the stage, with them eventually reforming after enough time passes. Occasionally, a checkpoint lamppost rises from the ground, and if attacked will cause the blue ball on top to turn red and spin around, similar to how they behave in the original game, with the lamppost damaging fighters if they touch it whilst the red ball is spinning. In the background, there's a loop, which is a famous set piece within Sonic games, with an extra life monitor on the top. Additionally, during the fight, it's possible to see the characters' Tails, Knuckles, and Silver run through the loop. Then we have 2 music tracks. Green Hill Zone, which plays during the level of the same name and has become a main theme for the series. Scrap Brain Zone, the game's final level, not counting Final Zone, which hosts the final boss fight against Robotnik. there's two spirits. Number 775, Sonic the Hedgehog, a fighter spirit. The art coming from Sonic Lost World, most likely due to Lost World's Sonic design, most resembling Sonic's appearance in both Smash 4 and Ultimate. And number 776, Dr. Eggman, a 3-slot legend primary grab spirit with the effect Electric Attack Up. The series' main antagonist who plans to take over the world utilizing a robotic army powered by small animals. Outside Japan, he was originally renamed to Dr. Robotnik, but was called Eggman across all regions after Sonic Adventure. The spirit art comes from Sonic Lost World, where Eggman attempts to take over by allying with a group of Zeddy called the Deadly Six, until Sonic makes him lose the conch he was using to control them, forcing the two to team up. Releasing just under a year and a half after the first game, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 would see release for the Genesis. Despite Sonic 1 being the first game made by the newly formed Sonic team, due to pay disputes between Yuji Naka and Sega Japan, Naka would leave Sega, leading to many other members of the team also leaving, until being convinced to join the America-based Sega Technical Institute by Mark Cerny, who nowadays is most known for his involvement with the first games in the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon series after becoming a consultant for Sony. Sonic 2 being one of the first games made by STI and the only one to be co-developed by both the American and Japanese teams. The game ended up being a massive success and effectively cemented Sonic's position as a pop culture icon and the Genesis as the only true competitor to the Super Nintendo. Given Sonic 2 is still often regarded as one of the best Genesis games of all time, let alone best Sonic game, we have a good amount to cover. To start is the track Emerald Hill Zone, the game's first level, which is fairly derivative of Sonic 1's Green Hill Zone. Have a Me Gunner costume based on Tails, a fox with a knack for inventions and can fly by spinning his two tails. Tails being added as the game's second player character. The gun is a Smash original design, most likely just being based on Tails' history with inventing. And to end off, there's two spirits. Number 777, Tails, a 1-slot ace support spirit with the effect Up Special Up. The art comes from Sonic Lost World, where Tails is mostly just a tag-along character who's used to explain how Sonic gets to the Lost Hex the game takes place on via a ride on Tails' plane, the Tornado. And number 778, Super Sonic, a 3-slot legend primary grab spirit with the effect Speed Up, a transformation Sonic can take after collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds and collecting at least 50 rings, making Sonic faster and near invincible. With the spirit art coming from Sonic Channel, the official Japanese Sonic the Hedgehog website. While Sonic 2 was being made in America, Sega Japan wanted a Sonic game for their upcoming CD add-on for the Genesis, the Sega CD, or Mega CD outside America. Originally, it was just supposed to be an enhanced version of Sonic 2, but after Sonic 2 underperformed in Japan, was made an original title led by Naoto Oshima, and with a higher focus on exploration. The final result was Sonic CD, which has Sonic needing to use time travel in order to stop Dr. Robotnik's takeover of Little Planet. Whilst the Sega CD itself was a commercial failure, Sonic CD ended up being its best-selling game at 1.5 million copies sold, and since received a really popular HD remaster in 2011, which acted as a basis for the recent Sonic Origins collection. Given that the game was often viewed as a hidden gem prior to the remaster, there is a decent amount here. First is the track Sonic Boom, which is used for the game's intro in the US version of the game. In addition, there's two spirits. Number 779, Amy, a one-slot ace support spirit with the effect shield damage up. A female hedgehog from Little Planet who falls for Sonic after saving her from Robotnik. The spirit art comes from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, a SEGA crossover racing game with the gimmick of swapping between a car, boat, and plane during the race. And number 780, Metal Sonic, a one-slot advanced primary shield spirit with the effect speed up. A robotic duplicate of Sonic built by Robotnik, who acts as the boss of Stardust Speedway. The art coming from Sonic Forces, where he's one of 4 previous villains brought back by Infinite and is the game's 5th boss. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was intended to be Sonic's biggest title. Developed by the Japanese team at STI, the game was set to have new transformations, different music between acts, mid-bosses, level-to-level cutscenes, a save feature, and much more. Unfortunately, due to Sega signing a deal with McDonald's to release a line of Sonic toys as part of their Happy Meals in order to promote the game, it ended up getting split into 2 games just to meet the deadline. The first half releasing as Sonic 3 and the second half as Sonic & Knuckles. However, thanks to the addition of an additional cartridge slot being added to the top of the Sonic & Knuckles cartridge, what was intended to be the full game could be experienced by plugging Sonic 3 into the top of it, this full version being named Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Since this was the last major Sonic title for the Genesis, and for the longest time was often regarded as the best Sonic game, we have a good amount to cover. First is a Brawl remix of Angel Island Zone, the game's first level, with it combining both the Act 1 and Act 2 versions of the track. Then we have the assist trophy, Knuckles, an echidna who acts as the sole guardian of the Master Emerald who gets tricked by Robotnik into thinking Sonic is trying to steal it, only for Robotnik to steal it and Knuckles teaming up with Sonic to get it back. In Smash, Knuckles attacks with a mix of homing attacks, an attack introduced to make hitting enemies easier in the 3D Sonic games, punching enemies, which is a common attack Knuckles has based on his large strength and spiked gloves, and digging through the ground to attack enemies, which was an ability introduced for Knuckles in the Sonic Adventure games after acquiring the Metal Claw upgrade. In addition, there's a costume for Mii Brawlers based on Knuckles, with the fingered gloves the costume has potentially coming from Knuckles' redesign for the Sonic Boom series. Finally, there's Spirit number 781, Knuckles, a 2-slot ace primary grab spirit with the effect Fist Attack Up. The spirit art coming from Sonic Forces, where Knuckles is the leader of the resistance group fighting Dr. Eggman. Knuckles Chaotix was a spin-off title which was made to be the big Sonic title for the other Genesis add-on, the Sega 32X, which allowed for 32-bit games to be playable on the Genesis, with gameplay focusing around controlling 2 characters who are linked together via a tether, the characters consisting of the previously discussed Knuckles and Team Chaotix, a group consisting of Mighty the Armadillo, Espio the Chameleon, Charmy B, and Vector the Crocodile, along with 2 Juck characters Bomb and Heavy. Given the Sega 32X was an even bigger financial failure than the Sega CD, this game is mostly forgotten, and because of that there isn't much from this entry, with the only thing taken from this game being Spirit number 782, Chaotix, a 3-slot novice primary grab spirit, specifically featuring all members of Team Chaotix except for Mighty, since after Knuckles Chaotix, Mighty would effectively disappear from the series until Sonic Mania, with the rest of Team Chaotix being made detectives for hire in Sonic Heroes. The Spirit artwork comes from Sonic Channel. Now we have one of the first fully 3D Sonic games, Sonic R, a racing game released for the Sega Saturn. Sonic R was originally a Formula 1 racing game being published by Sega and developed by Traveller's Tales, a British studio who had previously worked with Sega on Sonic 3D Blast, or Sonic 3D Flicky's Island outside of America, and are nowadays mostly known as the developers of the various LEGO series of video games. But after Sonic Extreme, the game that was supposed to be Sonic's debut in 3D and the big Sonic title for the Saturn, was cancelled after spending years in development hell, Sega requested the Formula 1 game be turned into a Sonic game in time for the 1997 Christmas season, along with a Saturn port of the previously mentioned Sonic 3D Blast to fill in the 96 Christmas slot Extreme was supposed to fill. Given this rushed schedule, despite realistically being the best Traveller's Tale could do within the time they were given, the game is often heavily criticized for its unbalanced characters, odd controls, and lack of content or replay value, especially when compared to its competition at the time. Because of that, there's not a lot from this entry either. The only thing taken from this game being the track Super Sonic Racing, the game's main theme which plays on the title screen, and the final track Radiant Emerald if you play as Super Sonic. Here we are with Sonic's first mainline 3D game, Sonic Adventure, with this also being the first Sonic game to be fully developed by Sonic Team since Sonic 1, not counting Sonic Jam, a compilation pack of the Genesis Sonic titles for the Saturn. For Sonic's first proper 3D outing, in addition to a large step in graphics for the time, due to it being one of the first games for the Sega Dreamcast, the game featured 6 playable characters, each having their own campaigns that would intertwine with each other as the story progressed, along with full voice acting for every major character. The game was incredibly well received and went on to be the Dreamcast's best-selling game at 2.42 million copies sold. After Sega left the hardware industry to become a third-party developer, the game would see a GameCube and PC port in 2003 under the title Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut, with updated models and textures, increasing the frame rate, a new mission mode, and the ability to unlock all 12 Sonic games that released for the Sega Game Gear, with DX later receiving a HD version on PS3 and Xbox 360 in 2010, along with a Steam release in 2011. Given how important this game is to Sonic's history, there's a good amount to cover. First is the track Open Your Heart, the game's main theme which plays during the intro and the final boss fight against Perfect Chaos.
Side
And then there's 4 spirits. Number 783, Big the Cat, a 2-slot novice primary neutral spirit with the effect Wait Up. A large purple cat whose gameplay focuses on fishing for his pet frog, Froggy, after it eats a Chaos Emerald and part of Chaos. The art coming from Sonic Channel. Number 784, Gamma, a 1-slot novice primary grab spirit. Full name being E102 Gamma, a robot built by Eggman who, after seeing the treatment of the other E-Series robots and the animal within Gamma being reminded of its past after a run-in with Amy, decides to destroy the other E-Series robots in order to save the animals trapped within them. Number 785, Chaos, a 1-slot advanced primary grab spirit with the effect Water Attack Up. An ancient god that was trapped within the Master Emerald after killing most of the Echidna tribe, who Eggman frees in an attempt to take over the world by powering it up by feeding it Chaos Emeralds. The spirit art specifically being Chaos's form with none of the emeralds, dubbed Chaos Zero, which acts as the first boss of Sonic's campaign, with the art itself coming from Sonic Forces, where it's one of the 4 villains brought back by Infinite. And number 786, Chao, a 2-slot novice primary shield spirit which can be enhanced at level 99. A race of creatures who are initially protected by Chaos and can be raised by the playable characters within the Chao Garden. The spirit artwork comes from Sonic Channel. Sonic Adventure 2, much like how the first Sonic Adventure was the Dreamcast's launch title, is often viewed as the system's swan song, releasing 3 months after the Dreamcast was discontinued and while SEGA was in the process of becoming a third-party developer. Adventure 2 slimming down the 6 playstyles and campaigns from the first game to 3 playstyles split across 2 campaigns, with a hero story starring Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and a dark story with Dr. Eggman and newcomers Shadow and Rouge. Whilst the original Dreamcast release only sold 500,000 copies compared to Adventure 1's 2.42 million due to the previously mentioned circumstances, its later GameCube port, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which released between 6 to 11 months later depending on where you live, went on to sell over 2 million copies, making it the best-selling third-party GameCube game, with Battle later receiving HD versions on PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. Since this was often regarded as the best Sonic game for a long time and was most non-Sega fans' introduction to the Blue Blur, there's a lot to go over. To start, there's 2 music tracks. Live and Learn, the game's main theme which plays during the final boss fight against Final Hazard.
Can you feel life moving through your mind? Ooh, looks like it came back for more! Yeah!
And Escape from the City, the music that plays during the first level of the Hero campaign and Sonic's first level, City Escape. Next is the assist trophy, Shadow, a hedgehog created by Eggman's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, to be the ultimate life form, who after being found by Eggman, works with him to take over the world as revenge for Gun, the Sonic Universe equivalent to the US military, killing Shadow's best friend and Gerald's granddaughter, Maria. In Smash, Shadow will make all other fighters slow down by using Chaos Control, an ability that lets Shadow affect the fabric of space and time by using the power of the Chaos Emeralds. Finally, there's 4 spirits. Number 787, Hero Chao, a 2-slot ace primary shield spirit with the effect Fast Final Smash Meter. A new form for the Chaos that it can take either by being raised by the characters on Team Hero or being abused by members of Team Dark. The artwork comes from Sonic Runners, an endless runner mobile game released in 2015 and was then shut down in 2016, with Hero Chao being a null speed type buddy. Number 788, Shadow the Hedgehog, a 2-slot ace primary attack spirit which can be enhanced at level 99. The spirit art being from Sonic Forces, where in addition to being one of the 4 villains brought back by Infinite, with the fake Shadow getting defeated by the real Shadow, also has a 3-stage long prologue released as free DLC under the name Episode Shadow. Number 789, Super Shadow, a 2-slot legend primary attack spirit with the effect undamaged attack and speed up. Shadow's version of the supersonic transformation which he takes for the final boss fight, the artwork coming from Sonic Channel. And number 790, Rouge the Bat, a 1-slot advanced support spirit with the effect air attack up. A jewel thief who joins Eggman's team as part of an undercover mission for the government to find information on Project Shadow, with the spirit art coming from Sonic Runners where she's a flying dark type character. The Sonic Advance trilogy was a series of Sonic platformers released exclusively to the Game Boy Advance, not counting the first game being made available on a few mobile phones at the time, with all 3 games being made by Dimps, a studio consisting primarily of ex-Capcom and SNK employees, who in addition to various Sonic titles are most known for developing both Street Fighters 4 and 5. The games being both Sonic's return to 2D platforming, along with Advance 1 being Sonic's first new title after going third party. Given these games are often forgotten in favour of Dimps' later work with the Sonic Rush games, there's not much from this trilogy. Only one thing is taken from this series, that being spirit number 791, Cream and Cheese, a 1-slot advanced support spirit with the effect Jump Up. Cream being a rabbit who appears as a playable character in Advance 2, where she works with her pet child Cheese to save her mother Vanilla from Eggman, the art coming from Sonic Channel. Now we have the first new Sonic game to release across multiple platforms with Sonic Heroes, which released on the GameCube, PlayStation 2, original Xbox, and PC. While keeping the story being told across different teams like Adventure 2, Heroes not only overall simplified the story, but also has you control all 3 members of the team at the same time, with each team having a speed, flight, and power character respectively, which you can switch between on the fly. Whilst the game had an overall mixed reception, it sold relatively well, with at least 3.41 million copies sold across all 4 versions. Due to Heroes' mixed reception, there's unsurprisingly not much from this entry. First is the music track Sonic Heroes, the game's main theme which plays during the game's intro, and the credits for the final campaign. In addition, there's spirit number 792, Omega, a 1-slot novice primary shield spirit. Full name being E123 Omega, a robot built by Eggman who, after only being used to guard a comatose Shadow, builds a resentment towards Eggman, wishing to destroy both him and everything else Eggman's built to prove he's superior, with Omega acting as Team Dark's power character, with the art being from Sonic Channel. Next we have Sonic's debut on the DS with Sonic Rush, which was developed by Dimps, the same team behind the previously mentioned Sonic Advance trilogy. The game is mostly remembered for its gameplay, which was similar to the Advance games with the main addition of a boost mechanic, whereby holding a button Sonic will run at incredibly high speeds, as well as the soundtrack which was composed by Hideki Naganuma, who is otherwise most known for his work on the Jet Set Radio series, with Rush later receiving both a sequel with Sonic Rush Adventure adventure, and its gameplay being reused for the DS port of Sonic Colors. Despite arguably being Sonic's most popular appearance on a handheld, only one thing is taken from this game, that being Spirit number 793, Blaze the Cat, a 2-slot advanced support spirit with the effect Mouthful of Curry, a princess from an alternate dimension with pyrokinetic powers who gets pulled into Sonic's dimension when Eggman teams up with its alternate universe counterpart, Eggman Naga, to steal both the Chaos Emeralds and Soul Emeralds, with Blaze being the game's second playable character, the artwork once again coming from Sonic Channel. The Sonic Riders series was Sega's next attempt at a Sonic racing game, with the series consisting of the original Sonic Riders for the GameCube, PlayStation 2 and Xbox, along with the later PC port, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity for the PlayStation 2 and Wii, with the game being a Wii exclusive in Japan, and Sonic Free Riders, which was released exclusively for the Xbox 360, with it being played using the Xbox's Kinect peripheral. Whilst the first two games do have a small dedicated fanbase, the series overall received a mixed reception, with Free Riders being much more negatively received, often being regarded as one of the worst games to utilize the Xbox Kinect. Due to this mixed to negative reception, this is another series that only gets one piece of representation, that being Spirit number 794, Jet the Hawk, a 1-slot advanced support spirit with the effect Move Speed Up, the leader of a group of thieves called the Babylon Rogues, who get hired by Eggman to beat Sonic's team in the X World Grand Prix Extreme Gear tournament in the first game, with Jet also acting as Sonic's rival throughout the series, the art coming from Sonic Channel. 2006's Sonic the Hedgehog, often nicknamed Sonic 06, was supposed to act as the series' reboot to both celebrate Sonic's 15th birthday and the 7th generation of consoles with the Wii, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3. But after a series of events, including but not limited to, the team being split in half after Sega realized the Wii wasn't powerful enough to run Sonic 06, causing that version to get cancelled and a new game needing to be made in its place, even more staff leaving after Yuji Naka left Sega due to years of feeling dissatisfied with his managerial position within the company, and Sega demanding the game had to be released before the end of 2006. The game ultimately released as a broken, unfinished game with an overly melodramatic and poorly written story, with 06 often being regarded as not only one of the worst Sonic games, but one of the worst video games of all time, with its negative reception not only causing a planned PC port to get cancelled, but is often blamed as damaging Sonic's reputation within the gaming landscape beyond repair. Given the game's overwhelmingly negative reception, it shouldn't be too surprising to hear not much was taken from this game. First is the track His World theme of Sonic the Hedgehog, which acts as both Sonic's theme and the game's main theme, specifically being an instrumental version made for the game's 2006 E3 trailer. Then there's Spirit number 795, Silver the Hedgehog, a 1-slot advanced support spirit with the effect Strong Throw. A hedgehog from the future with psychic powers who travels back in time to kill Sonic, believing him to be responsible for releasing the monster Iblis and dooming the world. The spirit art comes from Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, the second installment of the Mario and Sonic series, where Silver was one of the 4 new playable characters, along with the previously mentioned Metal Sonic, as well as the Mario universe's Bowser Jr. and Donkey Kong. Remember how I mentioned the Sonic 06 dev team getting split in half to make a new game for the Wii after they realized 06 couldn't be ported to the Wii? Well, the final result of that was Sonic and the Secret Rings, a part auto-runner, part platformer released exclusively for the Wii, which has you control Sonic using the Wii's motion controls. The game later saw a semi-sequel 2 years later with Sonic and the Black Knight, which was also a Wii exclusive and dubbed the second game in the Sonic Storybook series. Due to both games' cutscenes being presented using stylized 2D illustrations, and the stories for both games revolving around Sonic being brought into the world of classic literature, with Secret Rings having Sonic travel to the world of Arabian Nights, whilst Black Knight puts Sonic in the stories of Arthurian legend. Given both games are mostly forgotten and there hasn't been a new storybook game since Black Knight, not much is taken from either game. The only things from these games being 2 music tracks. 7 Rings in Hand, the main theme of Secret Rings, playing in the main menu, and the final boss fight against Alpha Layla while Layla. And Night of the Wind, the main theme of Black Knight, playing on the title screen and the game's credits. Next we have Sonic Unleashed, which primarily saw 2 distinct versions, a HD version for the Xbox 360 and PS3 developed by Sonic Team, and a non-HD version for the Wii and PS2 which was done by Dimps. The gameplay is split into 2 segments. First is the daytime segments, which have you play as Sonic, who now utilizes a boost mechanic similar to that of the Sonic Rush games, and nighttime stages where you play as Sonic's Werehog transformation, whose gameplay consists of a mix of hack and slash beat 'em up and some light puzzle elements. Whilst the game initially saw a mixed reception, with most people agreeing that the daytime levels were far better than the nighttime levels, the game is definitely looked back on more fondly, especially after the 360 version was made backwards compatible on the Xbox One and Series X line of systems. However, given that initial mixed reception, there's not much from this entry. To start, we have Rooftop Run, this being the level from Unleashed's second world, Spagonia, with Smash using the Act 2 or Modern Sonic remix of the track from Sonic Generations, where it's the 8th level in the console version. Then there's Spirit number 796, Sonic the Werehog, a 1-slot advanced support spirit with the effect physical attack up. A werewolf-inspired transformation Sonic takes at night time, which he gains as a result of absorbing part of Dark Gaia after Eggman breaks apart the world using the power of the Chaos Emeralds. Next we have Sonic Colors, which was designed to appeal to more casual audiences, specifically children and fans of the Super Mario series. And because of this intended audience, as well as the success of the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games series, Colors was released exclusively on Nintendo platforms, with a Wii version featuring gameplay based on the daytime levels of Sonic Unleashed, and a DS version made by Dimps featuring similar gameplay to the Sonic Rush series. Both versions having Sonic's save and use alien creatures called wisps as power-ups. At the time, Colors was heavily praised, often being considered the best Sonic game since the Genesis and Adventure titles, with the Wii version later receiving a remaster with Sonic Colors Ultimate on Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Despite how popular the game is, and that it was initially a Nintendo exclusive, only one thing is taken from this entry, that being the music track Reach for the Stars, the main theme of the game, specifically being the version from the game's intro. Now we have Sonic Lost World, which ditched the boost formula Sonic had been using since Unleashed, and as part of an exclusivity contract with Nintendo, initially released as a Wii U exclusive, along with a handheld version for the 3DS, once again developed by Dimps, with the Wii U version later receiving a PC port. The game has mostly received a mixed reception, thanks to its generic story, and that based on its gameplay, level design, and world themes, was often accused as being a blatant attempt from SEGA and Sonic Team to try and copy the success of Nintendo's new Super Mario Bros. Series. However, given this was the most recent Sonic game at the time of Smash 4's release, we have a decent amount of content to go over. First is the stage Windy Hill Zone, the game's first world, which is heavily inspired by Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1. In addition to the main stage layout, which features similar design to the platforms of Windy Hill Zone, there's some rotating double-sided springs that launch fighters by landing on them, these resembling the large springs throughout the game, as well as a windmill on the right side which appears throughout Windy Hill. In addition, all 7 of the animal friends that Sonic saves from bandits and capsules appear in the background, named Flicky, Pecky, Picky, Pocky, Cucky, Ricky, and Rocky. The only other things from Lost World being 2 music tracks. Wonder World, the game's main theme which plays on the title screen, and Windy Hill Zone 1, the track from the game's first level of the same name. Sonic Mania was initially a digital-only side game made by Christian Whitehead, Headcanon, and Pagoda West Games for the Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The game gained a lot of attention as basically everyone working on the game, from the developers to the composers to the animators, got their career started making Sonic fan projects, with the game itself being heavily inspired by the original Genesis titles. Upon release, the game was heavily praised, with the only major criticism the game received being its over-reliance on nostalgia for the Genesis titles, due to 8 of the 12 main levels being remixed versions of stages from those games, with it doing well enough to get both a physical release and a DLC expansion with Sonic Mania Plus, which added an Encore mode, 4-player, and 2 additional playable characters with the long-forgotten Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel. Despite the game's success, only one thing was taken from this game, game, most likely due to Sega internally viewing it as a spin-off to advertise and set up why classic Sonic was in Sonic Forces. The only thing taken from this game being the music track Lights, Camera, Action, Studiopolis Zone Act 1. Studiopolis Zone being the game's third level and the first original zone. Finally, we have what was the most recent mainline Sonic game at the time of Ultimate's release, Sonic Forces, which released on Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The game featuring 3 playable characters with modern Sonic, who's gone back to his playstyle from Unleashed Colors and Generations, classic Sonic, whose gameplay is based on his appearance in Generations, and the new custom avatar character, who uses various Wisp-based weapons. Upon release, the game got very mixed to negative reviews, mostly criticizing the game's short length, weak narrative, lackluster level design, and classic Sonic's inclusion feeling completely unnecessary. Despite this rather negative reception, there's a good amount from this game given that, as previously mentioned, this was the most recent mainline Sonic title at the time of Ultimate's release. First, we have 2 music tracks. Fist Bump, the game's main theme which plays during the credits and double boost sections.
I can't do this alone, even though I am strong. Need something more than me, someone to push me to victory.
And Sunset Heights, the game's 12th level and the 4th modern Sonic level. Additionally, there's Spirit number 797, Infinite, a 2-slot advanced primary attack spirit, a jackal working for Eggman who utilizes the illusion powers of the Phantom Ruby to fight Sonic and the Resistance, with him also having 3 boss fights throughout the game against modern Sonic and the Avatar character. And with that, we finished the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Overall, the series is ranked 19th for most representation, ahead of F-Zero, but below Star Fox and Kid Icarus, with it also being the 5th most represented third-party series, behind Capcom's Mega Man and Street Fighter, Konami's Castlevania, and Bandai Namco's Tekken. Now let's move on from Sonic and onto Bayonetta. Bayonetta is a character action game published by SEGA and developed by Platinum Games, who outside of Bayonetta are most known for the Wonderful 101, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, and Nier Automata. The games are most known for their flashy action, fun gameplay, and likable characters, albeit with lackluster stories. The first game initially released for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, with the game later seeing re-releases a few years later on Wii U, PC, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. The game did incredibly well review-wise, but despite being Platinum's best-selling game at the time, managing to sell 1.3 million copies in 5 months whilst it was still a 360 and PS3 exclusive, the game apparently failed to meet sales expectations, and after their next 2 games with Sega also failed, the two wouldn't work together again outside of a Bayonetta Flash game and re-releases of both Bayo 1 and Vanquish. Given a lot of the series' identity is established in the first game, there's a lot to cover. First is fighter number 63, Bayonetta, the series' main protagonist, who's one of the last Umbra witches alive, who uses various weapons and demonic summons to fight angels. Her default appearance in Smash is based on her slight redesign for Bayonetta 2, with her having an alternate costume based on her appearance in the original game, which, in addition to having different sound effects when using their guns, in the Japanese version of Smash, the Bayo 1 costume still uses English voice lines due to the first Bayonetta not having a Japanese dub. Next is the stage Umbra Clock Tower, which is based on the opening chapter of the game, where a past Bayonetta and Jean fight off angels while standing on the face of a destroyed clock tower, with the set piece returning in chapter 15 of Bayonetta 2. During the fight, debris falls near the clock face to act as additional floating platforms, with there being 7 different layouts that appear in a random but sequential order. In addition, fighters are occasionally transported to and from Purgatorio, an alternate reality to the human world used by angels and demons to interact with the human world without directly entering it. Whilst in Purgatorio, there's background cameos from multiple angel enemies from the game, with the angels Affinity and Inspired always appearing, as well as the occasional appearance of the game's first boss, Fortitudo, all 3 of these enemies appearing during the sequence in the original game. Following that is 8 music tracks, with a Smash 4 remix of Theme of Bayonetta, Mysterious Destiny, Bayo 1's main battle theme, and the main theme for Bayonetta the character. One of a Kind, which plays during the opening chapter, and whilst Bayo and Jean are destroying the body of Jubileus during the end of the game. Riders of the Light, which plays during the cutscene at the start of the prologue, and when fighting tougher enemies like Grace and Glory. Let's hit the climax, the theme for when Bayo summons an infernal demon to kill large bosses. Red and Black, which plays during the second and third fights against Jean. Afterburner Infinite Climax Mix. This plays during the motorbike section of Chapter 8, with the song also being a remix of the main theme of the SEGA arcade game Afterburner. Friendship, which plays during the first part of the final chapter where you play as Jean. Let's Dance Boys, the credits theme, and the music for the dance video unlocked after beating the game. After that, we have an assist trophy of Rodan, a powerful demonic weaponsmith who runs the game's shop, Gates of Hell, and can be fought as an optional super boss. When summoned, he will attack fighters with stronger versions of some of Bayonetta's attacks, with Rodan being able to summon giant versions of his arms to punch fighters, perform diagonal kicks similar to Bayo's afterburner kick, and do a stall and fall attack where he stomps the ground. In addition, before he leaves, he throws a random item on the ground, typically a battering or shooting item. Finally, there's 13 spirits. Number 1007, Bayonetta, a fighter spirit, with the art coming from Anarchy Reigns, an online multiplayer game set in the universe of Mad World, another game made by Platinum and published by SEGA, where Bayonetta was a guest character. Number 1008, Gamora, a slotless advanced primary attack spirit, one of the demons Bayonetta can summon from internal climax to kill larger angels. The art comes from Bayonetta 2, where the plot kicks off from Gamora breaking free of Bayonetta's control, becoming the game's first boss. Number 1009, Madama Butterfly, a 3-slot legend support spirit with the effect Poison Heals, the infernal demon contracted to Bayonetta and the source of most of Bayo's powers. The spirit art coming from Bayonetta 2, which was the first game to have Madama Butterfly appear fully on screen. Number 1010, Jean, a 2-slot ace primary attack spirit which can be enhanced at level 99. An Umbran witch Bayonetta fights with multiple times throughout the game, acting as Bayo's rival, with her also being an unlockable character, with the art coming from Bayonetta 2, where the game's plot revolves around Bayo trying to save Jean's soul before it's completely absorbed into Inferno after she's killed, saving Bayo from Gamora. Number 1011, Cutie J, a 2-slot legend primary attack spirit with the effect easier dodging. Jean's superhero alter ego inspired by the manga Cutie Honey and potentially Capcom's Beautiful Joe. Being available for Jean to wear by buying both the Super Mirror and Formal Courtier Bullet after beating the game on normal difficulty with Jean. Number 1012, Rodan, a 3-slot ace primary attack spirit which can be enhanced at level 99, whose art is original to Smash Ultimate. Number 1014, Luca, a 1-slot advanced support spirit with the effect Thrown Items Up. A journalist who initially despises Bayo, believing her to be responsible for the death of his father, with him eventually becoming an ally over the course of the game, with the spirit art coming from Bayonetta 2, where he fulfills a similar supportive role. Number 1015, Cereza, a 1-slot novice support spirit which lets you start the battle with a bunny hood. A child Bayonetta and Luca protect from angels over the course of the game, who, if you couldn't tell from the design, is later revealed to be a past version of Bayonetta. Number 1017, Boulder, a 2-slot advanced primary shield spirit which can be enhanced at level 99. A Lumen Sage who is revealed to be the main antagonist of Bayo 1 and Bayonetta's father, with him manipulating events in order to awaken Jubileus the Creator using the ancient treasures, the Eyes of the World. Number 1018, Father Boulder, a 2-slot ace primary shield spirit which lets you start the battle with a Franklin badge. A form Boulder achieves after fusing with Cereza for the game's penultimate boss fight. Number 1021, Affinity, a 2-slot novice primary neutral spirit. These being the most common enemies in the game, being fought as early as the opening sequence and the prologue. Number 1022, Inspired, a 1-slot novice primary grab spirit. Large snake-like enemies who act as mini-bosses throughout the game, with the art coming from Bayonetta 2, where they only appear in Chapter 15. And number 1023, Fortitudo, a 3-slot advanced primary neutral spirit, the game's first major boss fought in Chapter 4, representing the cardinal virtue of fortitude.
Forever.
Given that, as previously mentioned, the first Bayonetta was Platinum's best-selling game, it's unsurprising that they'd want to do a sequel. However, due to Sega shelving the game partway through development, it was actually almost cancelled. Platinum asked multiple publishers to help fund the rest of the game, with Nintendo ultimately being the only ones who said yes, with the only restriction being that the game now had to be a Wii U exclusive, with Sega staying as a consultant due to them owning the Bayonetta IP. The game received universal praise, and whilst it initially sold poorly, mostly due to the Wii U itself being one of Nintendo's worst performing consoles, the game's later Switch port did far better, with Nintendo even agreeing to publish a third Bayonetta game, which released exclusively on Switch in October of 2022. Whilst there's not as much stuff from Bayo 2 as there was from the first game, there's still a good amount from this entry as well. First, there's 3 music tracks. A Smash 4 remix of Tomorrow Is Mine, the main battle theme of Bayo 2.
Tomorrow's mine. You awoke me, unleashed the fire in my heart. I will dance and I'll defeat them through the light and the dark.
The Legend of Aesir, which plays during the opening section of the game. Time for the climax, Bayo 2's Infernal Climax theme. In addition, there's 6 spirits. Number 1006, Bayonetta, Bayonetta 2, a fighter spirit. This being based on Bayo's redesign for Bayonetta 2, the main difference being a different haircut and her guns being swapped from the red Scarborough Fair to the blue Love is Blue. Number 1013, Rodan the Infinite One, a 3-slot legend primary attack spirit with the effect critical health attack up. A demon form for Rodan introduced in Bayo 2. Number 1016, Loki, a 2-slot ace support spirit which lets you start the battle with a black hole. A kid with supernatural powers who travels up Thimble Venta with Bayonetta in an attempt to restore his lost memories. Number 1019, Masked Lumen, a 2-slot advanced primary shield spirit with the effect magic attack up. A Lumen sage who works as the right-hand man to Prophet, with it later being revealed that he's a past version of Boulder. Number 1020, Prophet, a 2-slot advanced primary shield spirit with the effect magic attack up. The game's main antagonist who tries to capture Loki throughout the game in order to fuse with him to become Aesir, the god of chaos. And number 1024, Alrain, a 1-slot novice support spirit which lets you start the battle with a fire flower. A demon with a bitter rivalry to Madama Butterfly who siphons Jean's soul for power, with Alrain acting as the boss of Chapter 11. And that's Bayonetta done with, Bayo ranking 27th, putting it above Dragon Quest and below Final Fantasy, with it being the 8th most represented third-party series, where in addition to Sonic and the 4 third-party series it was behind, is also ranked below Metal Gear and the previously mentioned Final Fantasy. Now we have the last major Sega series with Persona. Revelations Persona, nowadays often referred to as Persona 1, is a turn-based RPG released exclusively for the PlayStation 1 and made by Atlus, who in 2010 were merged into the company Index Corporation, which was then bought by SEGA in 2013. Who revived Atlus, originally under the name Sega Dream Corporation, with them reinstating the Atlus name in 2014. The Persona series is a spin-off of Atlus's Shin Megami Tensei series, the idea being to create a dedicated sub-series revolved around the inner struggles of young adults after the positive reception to the high school setting in Shin Megami Tensei If. With the series' Persona system, personas being ghost-like entities who aid party members in combat, being based on If's Guardian system. The game ultimately did pretty well in Japan and is often considered a sleeper hit of the PS1 library in the US, most likely due to the game technically being the first SMT game to release outside Japan, with it later receiving a PC port 3 years later, as well as a PSP port in 2009, which was the first release of the game in Europe, along with the game being part of the lineup on Sony's PlayStation Classic in 2018. Given that the first two Persona games are often overlooked for the much more popular Persona 3, 4, and 5, to the point that nothing from Persona 2 even made it into Smash, there's not much from this entry. To start, we have a new remix of Araya of the Soul, the series' recurring Velvet Room theme, with Smash's version more so resembling the version of the track the series has used since Persona 3. The only other thing is spirit number 1307, Igor, a 2-slot ace support spirit with the effect Chance of Double Final Smash, a series recurring character who acts as the person who provides the game's protagonist with personas in the Velvet Room, the spirit art coming from Persona 5 where he still fulfills this purpose. Persona 3 released exclusively on the PlayStation 2 in 2006 in Japan, and 2007 everywhere else. The game follows a group of students called the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad, or SEES, investigating the Dark Hour, a mysterious time period between days that few people are aware of, with the game focusing on understanding and accepting the concept of death. The game did incredibly well review and sales-wise, with the game often being framed as both the moment Persona started to take off in the West, and when Persona started to become more popular than the mainline SMT series. The game would later receive an expanded version for the PS2 with Persona 3 Fez, as well as an abridged portable version with some extra content on the PSP with Persona 3 Portable, which is set to be re-released on PS4, Switch, Xbox One, and PC in 2023. Given this is often the oldest Persona game Atlus frequently references, we have a decent amount to cover. First, we have two music tracks: Mass Destruction, Persona 3's main battle theme,
Here's a wake, anger breathes out, face reality, never be charity. The enemy you're fighting covers all society. All night, mommy's not here, gonna fight all night.
And Battle Hymn of the Soul, the final boss theme, with the track also being a remix of Araya of the Soul. In addition, we have a costume for Mii sword fighters based on the Persona 3 protagonist, with the generic name being due to how Persona protagonists sometimes don't have a canonical name, with the Persona 3 protagonist being named Makoto Yuki in the Persona 3 animated film and the spin-off game Persona 3 Dancing in the Moonlight, Minato Arisato in the Persona 3 manga, and Shikuya Shiomi in the Persona 3 stage play. Persona 4 was released as a PS2 exclusive in 2008 in Japan and America and 2009 in Europe, making it one of the PS2's final big releases. The game's plot revolves around a group of high school students trying to solve a series of murders happening in a countryside town, which are connected to a mysterious TV channel that's dedicated to distorting and exaggerating the truth of who people are and their identities, with the group needing to save the channel's victims before they also get killed and try to find the serial killer responsible. The game received critical praise, often being regarded as being not only one of the best RPGs, but one of the best games of all time, with it later seeing an expanded version titled Persona 4 Golden, initially releasing as a PS Vita exclusive in 2012 until eventually seeing a PC port in 2020, with Switch, PS4 and Xbox One ports of Golden being scheduled for 2023. Given how insanely popular Persona 4 was, unsurprisingly we have a good amount to cover. To start, there's 3 music tracks. Reach Out to the Truth, Persona 4's main battle theme.
Now I face up, I hold up, I reach out to the truth. All the rising in the sea, all the whole man.
A new remix of I'll Face Myself, in particular containing elements from both the boss battle version and the acceptance version, which most often plays when a character accepts their shadow self, with the remix also opening with parts of the track Nevermore, the good ending credits theme.
無慈悲な言葉だけがでたらめに街に溢れてる
And time to make history, Persona 4 Golden's main battle theme.
It's a war of it every day.
Then we have 3 Mii costume pieces, with a Mii hat based on Teddy, who serves as a guide for the Midnight Channel for the protagonist, and later joins the group as a party member after beating the Mario Q striptease dungeon, with him being host to the Star Social Link, as well as a Mii sword fighter outfit based on the Persona 4 protagonist, who is canonically named Yu Narukami, with the name first being used in Persona 4 Arena, a Persona 4 fighting game which was made with Arc System Works, the same studio responsible for the Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue series. Persona 5 released for the PS3 and PS4 in 2016 in Japan and 2017 everywhere else. This game following a group of students who live double lives as the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, who by using a smartphone app enter the hearts of corrupt adults in positions of power in order to reshape them into better people and realize their failings as people. Upon release, the game was not only one of the best-selling entries in the series, but received universal praise for its visual presentation, story, gameplay, and music, with it later seeing an expanded version with Persona 5 Royal, which released as a PS4 exclusive in 2019 in Japan and 2020 everywhere else, with Royal later receiving ports on Switch, Xbox One, and PC in 2022. Given that this was the most recent and most popular Persona game at the time of Ultimate's release, the vast majority of content in Smash from the Persona series comes exclusively from Persona 5. First is fighter number 71, Joker, the game's main protagonist, with Joker being his code-name as the leader of the Phantom Thieves. His canonical real name is Ren Amamiya, which was originally used for the Persona 5 anime and was then made his default name in the Steam port of Persona 5 Royal. During the fight, Joker can summon Arsene, his starter persona in the game based on the fictional gentleman thief Arsène Lupin, created by French writer Maurice Leblanc. In addition to his Phantom Thief outfit, Joker has an alternate costume based on his Shujin Academy uniform, this being the high school Joker and most of the other Phantom Thieves members attend. Next is the stage Mementos, the palace of everyone's hearts and the core of the metaverse, the subconscious world where combat takes place and where palaces are located, with Mementos being an optional location to do optional palaces for grinding money and experience points or finding personas from previously completed palaces that the player missed. The stage itself has a similar layout to Battlefield, with one big floating platform with 2 or 3 smaller floating platforms. During the fight, trains will occasionally pass through underneath the stage, damaging fighters who touch them, along with angular platforms appearing on either the top or sides of the stage to prevent fighters being launched in that direction. In addition, the Morgana-mobile occasionally appears in the background to drop off members of the Phantom Thieves, namely Ryushi Sakamoto, An Takamaki, Yusuke Kitagawa, Makoto Najima, and Haru Okamura. One final detail is that if a song from Persona 4 or Persona 3 is playing, certain aesthetics of the stage will change to match the design motifs of their respective games. And if Joker plays on the stage, in addition to changing his Rebellion gauge and victory screen color to match Mementos, his usual victory theme will also be swapped for the Persona 4 or Persona 3 victory theme respectively. Then we have 5 music tracks. Last Surprise, Persona 5's main battle theme.
Try to run me through, hold on, think again, don't you know what just happened?
A new remix of Beneath the Mask, the music that plays when exploring Tokyo at night.
Searching all along, give us a dwell along and long, without a clue, without a sign, without grasping yet. The real question to be asked, where have I been?
Wake Up, Get Out There, Persona 5's main theme.
Who am I?
Rivers in the Desert, a late game boss theme used in the fights against Shido, the Holy Grail, and the New Game Plus fight against Caroline and Justine.
Never, and I've got to make my decision. This time it could be my moment.
And our beginning, the music that plays when Joker summons Santaneo during the final boss fight. Following that is a Mii hat based on Morgana, a cat-like being who, after being saved by Joker and Ryuji during their first visit to Kamoshida's palace, teaches them how to use personas and how to become a phantom thief. Finally, we have 12 spirits. Number 1304, Joker Phantom Thief, a fighter spirit based on Joker's Phantom Thief outfit. Number 1305, Joker Student, a fighter spirit based on Joker's Shujin Academy uniform. Number 1306, Phantom Thieves of Hearts, a one-slot legend support spirit with the effect Item Auto Grab, this being a group spirit of all the members of the Phantom Thieves, the game's protagonists. Number 1308, Caroline and Justine, a two-slot ace support spirit which lets you start the battle with a black hole. Twin sisters who act as Igor's assistants and the Phantom Thieves' correctional officers, with them also being the characters to go to in order to fuse personas. Number 1309, Morgana, a three-slot ace primary grab spirit with the effect Sword Attack Up, who after joining the group fights with the starting persona Zoro, based on the Pulp Fiction swordsman of the same name, and acts as the magician confidant. In addition, Morgana also transforms into the Morgana-mobile to travel across mementos. Number 1310, Ryuji Sakamoto, a one-slot advanced primary shield spirit with the effect Battering Items Power Up, a fellow student and Joker's first friend at Shujin Academy, who becomes the first Phantom Thief member other than Joker, under the name Skull with the starting persona Captain Kidd, based on the Scottish pirate William Kidd, with Ryuji also acting as the chariot confidant. Number 1311, Antakamaki, a two-slot advanced primary attack spirit with the effect Fire Attack Up, a student who faces discrimination due to her being partly of American heritage, who joins the group to try and take down the first boss, Kamoshida, after his physical and sexual abuse of her friend Shiho caused them to attempt suicide, and joins under the name Panther, starting with the persona Carmen, based on a fictional female fortune teller of the same name who uses her charm and beauty to take advantage of men, with Anne acting as the lover's confidant. Number 1312, Yusuke Kitagawa, a two-slot novice primary grab spirit, an artist who the Phantom Thieves saved from an abusive caretaker, with Yusuke joining the group under the name Fox and designing the Phantom Thieves logo after finding out that the caretaker never loved him and is responsible for his mother's death. Yusuke starts with the persona Goemon, named after the Sengoku period Japanese outlaw Ishikawa Goemon, and is the Emperor confidant. Number 1313, Makoto Najima, a one-slot novice support spirit with the effect Fist Attack Up, the school student council president who suffers with social and self-confidence issues, with her initially trying to find out the true identities of the Phantom Thieves after being asked to do so by the school principal, only to join the group under the name Queen as part of a plan to take down a mafia boss who had been exploiting students within the area. She starts with the persona Johanna, based on Pope Joan, a woman from medieval legend who briefly reigned as Pope against the Catholic Church's ingrained tradition of only having male popes, and acts as the priestess confidant. Number 1314, Futaba Sakura, a one-slot novice support spirit with the effect critical health attack up. A shut-in computer hacker being taken care of by Sojiro Sakura, the same man housing Joker, after her mother committed suicide and none of her relatives properly took care of her. She joins the Phantom Thieves under the name Oracle, after they help her overcome the trauma she feels from her mother's death. She starts with the persona Necronomicon, named after a fictional book, often associated with dark magic and ancient cosmic or demonic creatures, which first appeared in the H.P. Lovecraft story The Hound, with Futaba being connected to the Hermit Confidant. Number 1315, Haru Okamura, a 3-slot novice primary attack spirit, the heiress to the company Okamura Foods, who joins the Phantom Thieves under the name Noir, to try and change her uncaring father's heart in order to escape from an arranged marriage with an abusive partner. She starts with the persona Milady, based on Milady Laurence de Winter, one of the antagonists from the French novel The Three Musketeers, with Haru also being the Empress confidant. And number 1316, Goro Akeshi, a 1-slot advanced support spirit with the effect item gravitation, a detective who throughout the game is working to try and expose the real identities of the Phantom Thieves, with it later being revealed he was secretly working for Shido, the game's main antagonist, the entire time, with him planning to expose Shido after helping him achieve his goal of becoming Prime Minister. Persona 5 Strikers is an action game spin-off set half a year after the events of Persona 5, the game being made in collaboration with Omega Force, the studio behind Koei Tecmo's Dynasty Warriors series, with the game itself effectively being a Persona 5 themed Warriors game. The game released in Japan in 2022 on both Switch and PS4, with it releasing everywhere else along with a PC version in 2021. It managed to sell decently well, receiving generally positive reviews. Since this game released after Ultimate, the only content from this game was a promotional spirit that was given away early to players with save data of the Switch version. That spirit being spirit number 1466, Sophia, a 2-slot ace primary neutral spirit, an AI who housed the Phantom Thieves throughout the game, being discovered by Joker, Ryuji, and Morgana after being captured by Alice Hiragi. And that's the Persona series finished. This series is actually tied 27th with the previously discussed Bayonetta, with Persona's Mii costume pieces making up for Bayonetta's assist trophy and higher spirit count. Before we end the video though, we still have one series left to look at, that being Sega's main fighting game series, Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter is Sega's main fighting game series, with the original Virtua Fighter also being the world's first 3D fighting game, with its original arcade version releasing almost a whole year before the original Tekken. The series was created by Yu Suzuki, who in addition to many classic Sega arcade games such as Hang-On, Space Harrier, and Daytona USA, is most known for creating the Shenmue series, with all of these games, with the exception of Shenmue 3, being made by his main studio before leaving Sega in 2003, Sega AM2. Whilst the series did see a decline in interest due to it eventually getting overshadowed in popularity by the previously mentioned Tekken series, with the last major release for the longest time being 2010's Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown, the series made a surprising comeback in 2021 with a PS4 remaster of Final Showdown titled Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, Showdown, which was made in collaboration with Sega's Ryuga Gotoku Studios, the team responsible for the Yakuza series, which has included the arcade versions of Virtua Fighter 2 and 5 Final Showdown as playable minigames. Given this is the only Sega series in Smash to not have a playable character, there is a surprisingly decent amount of content from Virtua Fighter. To start, we have 2 costumes for Mii Brawlers. The first is based on Akira, the series mascot and the traditional martial artist archetype common in fighting games, with the costume specifically being based on his model from the original Virtua Fighter. The other is based on Jackie, an IndyCar racer whose gameplay revolves around fast combos, with his fighting style being based on Jeet Kune Do, a martial arts philosophy inspired by Bruce Lee, with the costume being based on his appearance in Virtua Fighter 5. Next we have the Assist Trophy Akira, who fights off opponents using various martial arts moves from the game, including his signature move, the Tetsu Zanko. His model and choppy animations are based on the original Virtua Fighter, however his voice lines are taken from Virtua Fighter 4, making his Assist Trophy most resemble his appearance in Virtua Fighter 10th Anniversary, an enhanced PS2 port of the original Virtua Fighter made in the same engine as Virtua Fighter 4. Finally, we have Spirit number 1294, Akira, a 3-slot legend primary attack spirit with the effect Fist Attack Up, which like his Mii costume and Assist Trophy, uses artwork from the original Virtua Fighter. And with Virtua Fighter, we have looked at everything from Smash Ultimate to come from Sega. In terms of ranking, Virtua Fighter is tied 54th with Balloon Fight, Concept, Custom Robo, Galaxian, Nintendo Labo, Shovel Knight, and the mysterious Murasame Castle. As always, feel free to comment if there's a particular series you want to see me cover, or you feel I made a mistake somewhere. And thanks for watching.